Coming up on July 19th and 20th, Heritage Auctions has an amazing collection of memorabilia that they are auctioning off for their music memorabilia auction. And Garry Shrum, who is the Heritage's Director of Entertainment and Music Memorabilia, joins us this morning. Garry, I've got my eye on a ton of amazing posters that you've got lined up.
Oh, the posters are just so exciting to talk about. This is something that I started selling in 1976 when I opened my shop, and trying to educate people back then how rare concert posters were, that people just didn't get it because no, they didn't make like thousands. They for most events they printed like 20 to 40 posters just for the ticket outlets, the venue, and a few restaurants for window promotion, except the West Coast posters like the Bill Graham and the Family Dog and the Avalon Ballroom. Bill Graham made quantities and sold them through the head shops in San Francisco. And those, though, are the most collectible right now in most cases, because we have been selling, the Grateful Dead Skeleton Roses above $100,000, up to 175. Condition is everything. The Jimi Hendrix Flying Eyeball from Rick Griffin, the Bill Graham 105. And we've sold that for over 100,000. I think the last one went last year in a high grade for 137,000. But there's all kinds of other posters that we're educating people on here. Here's one we've only seen before out of Cleveland. Here's one out of Oklahoma City. Here's one out of Detroit. And you'll get some of these vintage 50s posters. Well, you'll have 7, 8, maybe 10 Hall of Famers on one poster. And to have this up on your wall in your man cave or your office or your living room is just really a great experience. And it's a piece of history. And sometimes these posters, we see them once and we don't ever see them again. And we've got a lot of that coming up. Next Saturday is the poster auction. And you can go on to ha.com right now and see the current bidding online and what the posters are, and the nice descriptions from Pete Howard, our poster expert. Stupendous stuff.
So many of them are of the psychedelic genre, if you will. You mentioned the Fillmore and places like that, but there's one poster that really caught my eye. I have never seen it before, even, a reenactment of it, if you will. And that was the Newport Folk Festival in 1965 with Bob Dylan.
Yeah.
That was, when he went electric, of course. And I mean, you're talking folk festival. It's real folk musicians on there. And all of a sudden, this is the one where Dylan turned the amps on and just let it wail. I have never seen an original poster from that event, Garrett.
Well, people have to realize when they made posters for these events, they just didn't have to make that many because they were going to sell. They were already a popular event and were going to sell. People got their mail, and here's a little flyer advertising it because they had went to the last year's event. But with significant shows like the Folk Festival from '65, or that foil-backed Monterey Pop Festival that we have, that one is just so hard to find in that kind of condition because they were foil-backed, and you hit your fingernail on it and you leave a mark. So to find them in an amazing shape, and that one there was 2 sizes. This is the oversized, larger one, and it's wonderful stuff. But that poster from the Folk Festival that changed music forever. Bob was in that position. He was driving the car, and a lot of people were influenced by that. Even though some people were standing there booing and throwing things. And in the rest of the tour in the UK, I mean, even Levon Helm quit the band because he couldn't stand being booed. So very interesting history there.
One of the other items that you have, and it's not a poster, is the sculpture, Brian Wilson for the Beach Boys. That is really incredible. And again, I've never seen that before. Tell us about that.
Well, Brian was a genius. I mean, let's face it. You go back to the very beginning with all the great surfing songs that they did, and then you got songs like Surfer Girl and In My Room, and then going on to Pet Sounds, and that just changed everything. I mean, that Pet Sounds influenced all musicians including the Beatles, which in turn produced Sergeant Pepper. But a little going back to the statue and the sculptures, they're just limited editions that were made because there was a small amount of people that followed Brian really intensely, and they make special things like this. And we we were so lucky to get this Beach Boys collection, and it's an honor to have this type of stuff in one of our auctions with the autographed surfboards and the autographed pet sounds and just limited edition things that Jeff Fawcett, being the guitar player that took over for Carl, what a great position for him to have for almost 40 years with the band. And he was a huge fan. And that's how a lot of this stuff came about. He had collected them and he had his hands out there, and the Beach Boys had to approve a lot of things. And was just like we've got this statue of the Indian on the horseback. This is 45 pounds of statue. And this was in the brothers' office in LA. It was just so kind of to have a one-of-a-kind item like that they all looked at and walked past, and they used their the artwork for their brothers label.
And again,
So
the auction is coming up on July 19th and 20th. There's amazing stuff from the Beatles, the Rolling Stones. You mentioned the Beach Boys, Bob Dylan, Jimi Hendrix, and more. Garry, one more time for WDHA listeners who want to check out everything that you have up for auction, where do they go?
they go to ha.com. You'll see our website there for music and entertainment. We have 52 divisions, so you can see all kinds of stuff. But you'll see the cover of the catalog there with the Indian and the surfboards and a teepee, and you just click on that and you'll watch all this groovy stuff that we got coming up in auction.
Garry Shrum is the Director of Entertainment and Music Memorabilia for Heritage Auctions. Thank you very much for your time, and best of luck with this year's auction.
Oh, it'll be great. And we thank you for having us. We like to talk about music. Anytime you want to talk about music, you contact me.